here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to make a patch. I'm going to improvise a patch. So if this patch turns out terrible, it's your fault. I don't know why it's your fault, but I'd rather it was your fault than my fault. Okay, let's start off at 0 and just create a patch. This is what it would look like. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do, let me tell you what my plan is. I want to create a sequence that continually goes, and then I also want to create some sort of thing that I can play over the top of the sequence. Because we have 2 channels, we should be able to do this. Okay, I'm going to use the envelope generator to control the amplitude and filtering of gate 1. And I think I'm going to start out using the random voltage controlled by the keyboard to control gate 2. Irritating. Okay, so let's start off controlling the frequency of the complex oscillator with the sequencer. And let's create a sequence. Okay. So I have plugged this shorting bar, which is just a patch cable, into the output of the sequencer and plugged it into the input of the frequency of the complex oscillator. So to get the sequencer going, we're going to need to give a pulse to the sequencer. So we're going to tell the sequencer to listen to the pulsar. We're going to set the pulsar to self, and we're going to get it going. Okay, now our sequencer is going. Next, we're going to tell the envelope generator that it needs to listen to the sequencer. And then we got that going. Let's create some pitches. That's nice. Now let's see if we can get the pulsar creating a more interesting rhythm. So we're going to take the output of the sequencer from the blue jack, plug that into the input of the pulsar, which is clocking the sequencer, and we're going to start messing with it. That's an interesting meter. Let's go with it. So we got that going. I better not mess with the pitch of the complex oscillator. Let's give the complex oscillator a more interesting sound. In fact, let's give it some variation. We're also going to disconnect the complex oscillator so that when I play the keyboard, it is not changing the frequency of our sequence. I choose that. But because I am using the random voltage to change the wave folder with this input, and I'm also controlling the amplitude of gate 2, which is the mod oscillator, which we haven't listened to yet. Every time I play the keyboard, because the random voltage is currently being controlled by the keyboard, we're going to hear a variation in timbre from the complex oscillator. So that's going to be weird. Let's listen to because I'm using the random voltage to control the gate 2, it's going to be a little bit, it's just going to be on a voltage until I play the next key. So it's going to be irritating while we're programming to listen to it, but it will be fine once we are performing. I'm switching it to just filter. So some of the notes are going to be louder and others are not going to be as loud. So we can, even right now, start playing along with this sequence. Let's tune the modulation oscillator so it's and if I wanted to be a bit more metric, I could switch it to 4 steps. It's interesting. Obviously, that's not the coolest song ever written, but at least it gives you a sort of, that's a way that you could start making a patch, is to patch up the sequencer and then actually play along with it with a different channel, a different gate. So that is one patch. I think I will do more. Okay.